Hello, welcome back to my channel. In the description there will be a card about the Black Lives Matter movement that is frequently updated and has a lot of informational links within that card, as well as some donation links and petitions to sign, etc. So if you want to check that out, and also the other links that I have been linking in my video will be there as well. The Atlanta Action Network Bail Fund is what, and within that I believe that they have hit the amount of money that they wanted to raise, but within that you can donate, and then I think that they will donate it to other places and or have links to other places where you can donate there as well. But yeah, so make sure you check out the description. In today's video I'm going to do an in-depth, like discussion, walkthrough, etc. about how to start collecting and about buying photo cards. The buying photo cards section will focus mostly on 17 because that is the ones I'm most familiar with, especially in terms of prices and things and where to find them. But I will try to, include some general information as well. But I will have a timestamp right here in my hands. That is where the information about the buying photo card starts. But then up until then, I'm going to talk about how to start collecting and kind of all of the aspects that go into that. And also, let me just go ahead and say that this is all based on my opinion and my experience, and everybody's collecting, trading, buying experience is different. And the tips and advice that I'm giving you is based on what worked best for me and what I think is best, and also I have given tips to others who've wanted to start collecting, and generally those things worked for them as well. So this is not this is not going to necessarily work for everybody, but this is based on my experience personally. So I just want to put that out there. This is not like fucking golden rule of collecting. You don't have to watch Troy and V's video, and then if you don't, then you will fail at collecting. That's not how it works, but you guys got it. I think you got it. To start off, to collect, I think that you kind of have to have a conversation with yourself and decide who you want to collect and what you want to collect. So you can collect albums, you can collect just photo cards, you can collect just albums and no photo cards, you can collect albums and photo cards. You can collect, and I'm using Vernon's binder here as examples because this has changed the least and I don't want to spoil anything for other videos of my other binders, but you can collect large items and photo cards. You can collect, non-album stuff as well as album stuff. But I think that the main thing is you need to collect what you think is going to make you happiest. I know a lot of people that only collect their, they collect one person solely, and they will dive deep into that collection and collect every single thing with that person's face on it, and that's cool. I think that that's great. I think that it's also great if you collect a huge variety of people and you just collect all of their album stuff. I think it's cool if you only collect one group. I think it's fine if you collect one person and just their album stuff and you just focus on that. Especially when you're starting out, I think that it's good to start smaller and then slowly expand because it can be easy to become overwhelmed. It's all about what you feel motivated to collect. That's kind of how I felt about when I changed my collection to just 17. I just was not feeling motivated to collect any other group. Once I started collecting 17, and especially now with their new comeback, I feel so excited and so motivated to collect them. So I think that that is like a big aspect, to only collect who you want to and who you feel passionate, who you feel motivated to. That's one of the biggest things in my opinion. I also don't think that you should feel pressured to collect certain things. A lot of people do collect non-album things, but I don't think that that's necessary. And first of all, you don't have to collect anything to show that you like a person or a group. That should be obvious. You don't have to, to prove that you stan or like a certain group, you don't have to collect them. But if you don't want to collect the lenticulars for You Make My Day, you don't have to. That's not a requirement. And you shouldn't feel less than if you don't want to collect certain things. But in the end, it's all about what makes you happiest. And you should also consider, your budget. Album photo cards in general are the best way to go. They're the most accessible, they're the easiest to find, and they're going to be probably within the budget of most people, especially if you would rather just collect photo cards rather than albums. You can buy a photo card for much less than the expense of an album in most cases, especially for 17. I can't say the same for, some groups like BTS. Sometimes their photo cards go for more than the album itself. But for 17, you can certainly buy one or usually more than one photo card for less than the price of an album. But okay. Yeah, so you kind of need to start with the decision of who and what you want to collect. That's the first part. And then once you decide that, you kind of want to decide, how you want to go about collecting that. Do you just want to be like a side? You kind of do this from the sidelines. You're not necessarily trading, or you're just kind of like buying photo cards. Then this doesn't necessarily pertain to you, because you can go on any platform to buy you can go on any platform to buy photo cards. A lot of people, especially people that watch my channel, sometimes want to get into like the actual collecting aspects with like the community and trading and selling and things like that. So you kind of have to decide where you want to start that, where you want to build your platform. So there are a few options. Okay, so I'm going to have my phone here, and in case you can't really see it that well, I'm also going to have a screen recording here of what's going on. But, so we're going to start off with talking about Instagram, because that's the one that I use the most. So some aspects that I love about Instagram is that the highlight features. So this is great for having proofs of certain things. So I have, as you can see, I have a lot of proofs. I have 1, 2, 3 highlights of proofs. And so those are just, proving that I am reliable. I have done, hundreds of trades, hundreds of sales, things like that. So this is an easy way to kind of keep track of that and keep those up. Also, wish lists is a big aspect. My wish lists, unfortunately, are not updated. I plan on doing that today. But I think that this part of it is like the best thing about Instagram, is keeping an updated wish list, because opposed to other things, you kind of have to make new posts and new, it's not super convenient to update a wish list, but on Instagram it is, because you can just, update your highlight that has that certain wish list there. It also has a more established community of traders and people selling than other places, like maybe Twitter. I feel like Instagram it's a lot easier to find kind of that community than it is with Twitter or Instagram, because with Twitter, I think that like it will be just random accounts posting things for sale and for trade, whereas with Instagram, usually there's a dedicated account for the sale and trade of that specific, thing. So I think that it's a little more reliable in that aspect. It's also easy to navigate the accounts and scroll through very easily to see what they have, whereas with Twitter, you kind of have to scroll through their replies, their retweets, things like that. But with this, it's just like, okay, I can see what cards they have right here. One disadvantage of Instagram is the search aspect, to go under certain trade tags and search that, which is another thing that I would recommend, is when you're making a post of, if I want to sell these Minghao photo cards, I'm going to post what's available, what I want to set, if I want to sell it, if I want to trade it, which wish list I want for, okay, so if I say I want the 17 wish list, I want one of the cards that I have listed on that wish list, and then, establish if you're going to trade, where you're willing to trade to, and then tag those different tags. And then once you look under those tags, you can kind of see a plethora of things, and it's also easy to scroll, just kind of easy to navigate, as I said. But with Twitter, you can kind of search for specific members. So you can type in WTS, which means want to sell. Like if I'm looking for a Vernon photo card, I can search specifically for Vernon, which with Instagram, it's not as easy to do that. It's much easier to kind of go through and there's much more of a variety, and more likely that people tag with a specific group rather than a specific member. That's the gist of Instagram. Personally, I recommend Instagram the most. I wish that I had started on Instagram. I started kind of doing things on Twitter, but Instagram is definitely better in my opinion. I am going to show you what I was talking about when it comes to Twitter. So the best thing about Twitter is that you get to search specific members, I think. So if I want to buy a Vernon photo card, I can just go to, WTS Vernon, and scroll through and try to find, you know, photo cards or whatever for Vernon. And even if I want to be more specific and say that I want to buy it from somebody who's going to ship or is in the US. So I can search WTS Vernon photo card, and then look, here's a Vernon photo card right here. It's super easy to find, really quick to find it that way, and I can get more specific with each, you know, additional word. That's the best aspect of that, but it's not great to keep up with wish lists and things like that because you have to make new posts every time, and it's a little more difficult to keep track of. You can't edit a post and say what is available and what's not. You can't edit a wish list to show what's available and what's not like you can with Instagram. It can be better because a lot of people already have like a Stan Twitter account, and so you kind of build your platform from there and kind of reach more people if you already have a little bit of a following. And whereas Instagram, you generally want to start fresh and make a whole new account for that trading and selling. Another good thing about Twitter is that you can tag certain accounts that like kind of dedicate that account to retweeting of like, you know, 17 photo cards for sale or for trade or, you know, whatever group. So that's kind of cool. You kind of get to promote yourself for free to a larger audience. But like I said, I would still kind of prefer Instagram because that community over there is a lot more closer knit and kind of, I don't know, I think that it's a little more reliable and better, easier to use. Another one that a lot of people use is Depop, which I can show you as well. I used to use it more than I do, but I don't really use it anymore. Another good thing about Depop is the search feature, so you can also search, you know, specific things. I did not search Saved by the Bell, so that's interesting. But like I can search, you know, WTS 17, and it's kind of similar to Instagram. And then you can get more specific, like Twitter. I can search a specific member, things like that. It is good for buying cards. I wouldn't recommend great for trading because you can't necessarily rely on this. The messaging feature is not great. You can't send photos or videos of proof that you have the card or that you've sent the card or anything like that. However, you do get like the purchase protection when you buy through Depop, but a lot of people prefer you not to buy through Depop and just kind of send money through PayPal and you lose that protection. Which, I mean, if they're a reliable seller, I wouldn't worry about that too much, but it can be a little riskier if it's like a newer person that you're buying from. So it just kind of depends on that. I would recommend Depop mostly for buying. Sometimes the cards on here can be overpriced, but honestly, sometimes you can find them for a really good price. It just kind of depends. But yeah, like I said, it's not great for trading, better for buying cards or selling cards. But I wouldn't recommend it for trading just because there's too many things that could go wrong. There's not enough reliable proof there. Even though they may have some proofs, I like to be able to see the card that, I like that they send a picture or a video of the card to me, proving that they have it in their possession at that time. So yeah, that's just my kind of little spiel on Depop. Not my favorite. Don't really go on there too much unless I'm really looking for something and, I'm desperate. But yeah, not my favorite. When you decide what you want to collect and where you want to do it, you can find like templates for the wish list. So I'm going to kind of use Instagram as an example. I'm going to use Instagram as an example because I know that one the best. I'm going to search up this person. So for 17, I don't know why I fucking stuttered so much. Somebody asked about like wish list templates or how you kind of keep track of what you want, what you have, etc. I use wishlist templates like this. This is by Once Vernon on Instagram. I'll link their Instagram below because they actually make a lot of 17 templates like this and they're really great, super reliable with it. And they also make some twice templates and other things too, but I obviously mainly use it for 17. But the good thing about this is that you can see the picture. You can know specifically, I have this card or I don't have this card. And so that's the best aspect for me about the wish list because I generally need to see what the card looks like or the back or something like that to know specifically, what cards I have and what cards I don't have. But a lot of people do use, writing it down on a piece of paper, writing down all the cards that you need and have and things, or using a spreadsheet or something like that, and you can link it in your Instagram bio or whatever. But the good thing about the digital template, like I showed you, actually it's good. It's easy for other people to understand and easy for you to understand as well. And whenever you're putting your wish list up on your highlights on Instagram, it's best to make it as simple as possible. Or blank ones are what I do need, covered up ones are what I don't need. I don't particularly love when people have like a bunch of different emojis meaning different things or colors meaning different things, because I forget as I'm scrolling through your wish list what each emoji means. In my opinion, I think it's best to keep it simple, like I need this card, but I already have this one. So on my wish list, this card's gonna be blank, but this one's gonna be covered up. Pretty simple like that, easy. Everybody can kind of get that. At first, when you're kind of starting to trade, starting to sell things, you need to like build up your reputation, prove to people that you are reliable. So people may ask you, to send things first and to, wait for them to get the card and then they can send it. But then once you do that, as you do that a few times, you can kind of build up some proofs, build up a good reputation, showing like, hey, I'm not a scammer. I am actually sending out the cards. And then people will start to rely on you and trust you like that. It's better, to be a little more flexible when you're first starting out, because you can't really prove that much at first. And, it's good to at least, be cooperative and, show like I'm willing to do these things, because that's much better than somebody who is reluctant to do that, because then you may seem a little more suspicious, especially if you're new. And I know that a lot of people are a little more scared to like be scammed or things. To be honest, it's not that difficult in my opinion to like notice a scammer or whatever. First of all, especially on Instagram, people post about scammers all the time. So if you keep track of that or are concerned about that, you can definitely keep a list or whatever of names of people that have been shown to be scammers and things. But honestly, if you're smart, you can probably figure it out just by looking on their account a lot of the time. I wouldn't say it works all the time, but most of the time I think that you can. Make sure that their username and the other person's username is visible in all of the proofs. Don't trade with people who make you feel uncomfortable. Just in general, if they've said anything that makes you feel a little uneasy, I would just kind of back away from the trade or from the sale. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. This is all just K-pop photo cards in the end, so your comfortability is more important than that. I think it's also really good to ask a lot of questions, ask for proof, ask for pictures, videos, things like that. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with asking questions and things like that. Also, don't be afraid to, like I said, don't be afraid to say no or to refrain from buying or trading if somebody makes you uncomfortable or you're a little bit weary about that person and their reliability. Something else I want to talk about is how I package my trades. All right, I don't want to waste any washi tape, so I'm not going to use any washi tape, but I am going to show you just kind of how I package things. So what I do is this, we're going to pretend this is a real card and not a freebie, but I put the card, and I'm just showing for photo cards because for other things it can kind of depend, but yeah, okay, so I put the photo card in a penny sleeve. This is an Ultra Pro sleeve, but it doesn't really matter. And then I tape it. I don't want to waste any washi tape, but I tape the top or the bottom, just kind of depending on how I put the card in there. And then I will I didn't grab a fucking top loader. Damn it. And by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with not knowing. I think that we're all learning here together, so. And then I put this inside of a top loader, which is like this plastic thing here, and it's nice and hard. Okay, I don't want to mess up my nails, but I put that inside of there, and then I tape this as well so the card doesn't come out, and therefore it prevents any sort of possibility of bending. And then I take this and tape it inside of a greeting card or a piece of cardstock or anything like that. In reality, I don't think that this matters that much. I think that this is the most important thing, the top loader. It matters more if you're not going to use a top loader and you're going to use cardboard. I think that that needs a little more protection, but this is, I don't think it really matters where you put this in terms of that. Because a lot of people just will put this in an envelope, and I haven't had any issues with that. So I'll tape that there, write a little note, put it in an envelope, and there you go. I know that a lot of people, are like, oh, it looks so ugly when I package my trades or whatever. I want it to look pretty, but in the end, I don't that doesn't matter. What matters most is, you know, that the card is protected and that it's not going to get damaged or anything like that. That should be the that should be the most important thing. It doesn't, how it looks doesn't really matter, because in the end, like, it's the card that you traded for, not the packaging, you know? Also, like, another thing is a lot of times people will include freebies and things in their trades. I also don't think that that's necessary. I think that it's, like, cool when people do it, and I try to do it as much as I can, but I don't think that it's necessary. It's just a little extra thing. Please don't feel pressured to do that, to include freebies. Make sure your, you know, packaging is worth, you know, being in a museum. And it's none of that's that serious. In the end, it's just about protecting the card and making sure that that is not going to be damaged. Okay, so now I want to talk about the supplies I use when it comes to my collection itself. Okay, so I just use a regular 3-ring binder. I don't know the sizes of any of my binders. I don't think that I've actually bought a binder for anything. I think that I've just like found them from school and stuff. But it really doesn't matter, in my opinion, what type of binder you use, like, because it's just a fucking binder. So, but in terms of what sleeves I use the Ultra Pro 9 pocket sleeves, which look like this, and they have the like holographic thing on the side. And then for other items, I use the BCW, and I've heard like that these aren't the greatest, but they're what I have for now. I might look into getting different ones, but I'm not really sure. So I use the 4 pocket, 2 pocket, and sometimes the 1 pocket sleeves. For these types of things, like actual large postcards, I use the BCW ones. But then for like my dividers, which I actually don't have any in my Vernon one, for my dividers or things I'm not as worried about, I will just use a regular like sheet protector, which is like super thin, and you can buy these like in the office supply section of a store. I actually use the Ultra Pro sleeves in my for my photo cards, but I just bought some Dragon Shield sleeves because I've heard that they're really great, and I actually traded with somebody who used them and I really liked them. So I'm going to try those out, and then I bought like 300 of them, so I don't think that that's enough for my collection, but yeah, I used to use the Ultra Pro ones, but I might end up transitioning to the Dragon Shield ones because they seem really good, and they're actually a lot clearer than these ones. Somebody also asked about like how to organize the collection. I think that placeholders helped me a lot. I went through a phase where I wasn't using any placeholders like these, and now I'm using them again, and I think that they just like make my collection look a lot better, especially when it's incomplete, and so therefore it makes me more motivated. I just really like the way that placeholders look in the collection, because even though it's incomplete, it looks nice, but they are definitely not necessary at all. And it also helps me keep a little bit organized because I can write, you know, on the way, and sometimes I used to even write like the username of the person that it's supposed to be coming from, but all of that is not necessary. It just kind of depends on what you prefer and what helps keep you organized, and you might need to, you know, go back and forth kind of seeing what helps you. And I found that the placeholders definitely does help me, and it makes me feel more motivated as well as more organized. And I like to organize my cards themselves in terms of times of release. When I first started, you know, even collecting, which is a loose term, photo cards, I would just kind of like put them in my binder with no real like rhyme or reason. But now I definitely have I have a preference of how I organize them, and I always do time of release. This is 2018 Carrotland, and then this is from Ideal Cut, which happened in 2018, and then this happened after that, and then this happened in 2019, and this happened in 2019, and then this, you know, we're moving to Japan, so it's like a starting over. It's organized by release, and I prefer that, but it's not necessary. Some people organize it by member, so you know, if you're collecting multiple members of one group, you might put all of, like if I'm collecting Vernon and Minghao, I might put Minghao first, and then all of Minghao's cards first, and then all of Vernon's cards first. But I'm just saying I prefer to organize it by album and time of release and things like that. But if you're talking about, you know, if you want to know more about like how to arrange cards on a page, I would check out Ava's video. I'll link it below. I actually got inspiration from them on how to set up my cards and make them look more aesthetically pleasing. And I think that they like discuss it in a really good way and give good explanations for how they set up their cards. So I would check out that because that's where I got most of my inspiration from anyway. So I don't actually have that many original ideas when it comes to that. And another thing is I would just try to make sure you separate groups. So keep, all of your 17 groups together, all of different groups together, because that just kind of is more pleasing and better organized. Just kind of organize it the way you like, because you're the one who's going to look through it the most. You're the one who's going to see it the most. So that your first priority should be how you think your collection looks and what you like best, not what other people think. All right, I think I'm done with the how to start your collection. I think that I went over everything that I wanted to, but let me know in the comments if you have any other questions that I can maybe make like a part 2 or a follow-up or something. I tried to give advice in terms of like what I wanted to hear when I started collecting. But yeah, okay, so now this section is going to go into buying photo cards. Okay, so this is, like I said, based purely on what I know about buying and what I have experienced and what I wish I knew when I started collecting, especially 17. And this is mostly based on 17 because that's who I'm most familiar with in terms of buying and things. Like, one of the first pieces of advice I would give myself is to not buy rarer cards, like, from people that's not on Mercari Japan, because like I bought so many like rarer Vernon cards and spent way too much on them when I could have bought them for so much cheaper on Mercari. Like, this is the most money I've ever spent on a card, this Happy Ending Carrot card, and I spent $35 on this. Whereas I could have probably bought his entire Happy Ending set for $35. And like, that hurts me a little bit, but I can't go back now, But it's like, just don't, I don't know, like, this might be harmful to the collecting community because people obviously make money by selling them. And, that might contribute to, like, them living their life. But it's like, you can really, really, truly find them for cheaper on Mercari. Especially compared to, like, Instagram or Twitter. And just in general, because Mercari Japan is obviously, it's a Japanese like marketplace essentially, and kind of like eBay but for Japan. Or there is Mercari USA, but I'm not super familiar with it. I've never bought anything on there, but I mean, it's the same thing but for Japan. And they only ship to Japanese addresses, so you have to use a proxy website. I've only used, which a proxy is essentially somebody who buys the cards for you and then will send, have it sent to their Japanese address and then send it to you. I have used Japonica and Yokyo. I plan on using Bai, and I want to make a whole like video about like comparing those three. For beginners though, I would recommend using Yokyo or Bai because they are definitely the most user-friendly and best for like people who have never done that type of thing, because they kind of like really walk you through each step. I wouldn't recommend Japonica for somebody who's never done it before unless you watch like an in-depth tutorial about it, because it can be kind of confusing. I don't want to go into like detail too much about the proxy sites, but I think I don't know, I've used Nyokyo a few times and I've used Japonica several times. I feel like Nyokyo is so slow with buying my card, because with Japonica I've had people buy, or I've had them like buy it like within the hour before. It is really easy to use and the fees are less than Japonica. Especially for rarer cards, I would definitely never ever ever recommend buying on eBay unless it's an auction. And you can, hopefully buy it for cheaper because you're just bidding rather than a set price. But like this card right here, I've seen this card on eBay for like $30 and I bought it for $10 or so on Japonica. Do not buy rare cards on eBay or Depop, because you can most definitely find it cheaper on Mercari, especially like Japan cards themselves, because I spent a lot on a lot of Vernon's like Japanese cards before I started using Mercari, and obviously kind of wasted some money there because I could have bought them for cheaper. But yeah, but especially eBay, I wouldn't buy, honestly in general, I wouldn't buy things on eBay unless it's like a card that I have not been able to find and I can only find it on eBay, or it will like complete a collection and get here quickly. Those are like the only two reasons I would buy on eBay now, especially. I used to buy on it more back when I was first started collecting, but now I would not, because it's just, you'll see, especially as you kind of like go forward in collecting, like almost 90% of the things on eBay are overpriced. The only thing is you get a little bit more purchase protection because you have like the whole PayPal thing and you know, you can file a case and blah, blah, blah. But in general, probably would not recommend buying from eBay. You can buy from a just as reliable seller on Instagram or something for probably a few dollars less. Another thing I want to talk about is like knowing the value of photo cards. This section is going to be where it is mostly focused on 17 because I would say value of photo cards kind of varies for different groups, but this is based purely on 17 and what I know about it. And I have been collecting 17 for probably over a year now. I have a pretty hefty burn-in collection and I've bought a lot of different burn-in things. And in general, like I said, I think that I know the value of cards. You have to take this with a grain of salt though, because some people are willing to spend more or spend less on photo cards, and you know, that's totally up to you. But this is based purely on my opinion and what I would or wouldn't spend however much on. 17 album cards in general, I would not spend more than $8 excluding shipping on a photo card because all of 17's albums are in print. They are not necessarily super hard to find. One thing I find really strange is that teenage cards are like generally like fucking expensive. I don't really understand that because the teenage albums are in print. Yeah, I don't know. Because I guess because you only get one photo card per version. So I guess that's a little bit, you know, more difficult to collect, but I don't know. They are certainly overpriced in my opinion. But so for albums that come with more cards, for example, like an ode or twice albums come with a lot of cards, those cards in general should be cheaper. So in my opinion, a photo card from, let's say, AL1, where you get one photo card in an album, that photo card should be about $8, in my opinion. And then, so if you take that into consideration with an ode, where you get 4 photo cards in an album, an ode photo card should be about $5, in my opinion. However, most people don't agree with that. And also, I can't even sell my cards for that much because I couldn't buy the same value of card. But if everybody just collectively sold an ode photo cards for $5, that would be great. But whatever, I guess. I mean, I can't control what other people do. I don't know, take that into consideration because it's similar to Twice. Twice, you get like 5 photo cards in an album usually. So those photo cards, you don't see a Twice photo card generally go for more than $5. And I think that an ode is on a similar level because of the amount of photo cards there. But I digress. It really just depends on the album and the ratio. So for all of BTS albums, SM albums, some 17 albums, you only get one photo card per album, and therefore that photo card is going to be more expensive. Which makes sense. I understand that. I still think that those photo cards are greatly overpriced, but like I said, I can't control that. Now, in terms of non-album goods, for Korean non-album cards, for example, these Ideal Cut cards, these Carrotland, OTU, these are not hard to find. You get a lot of them when you go to concerts, and they're not very expensive. So you buy at those shows, you buy them in sets, and they're random, but they are really not hard to find at all. So I would say like spending more than $5 on these cards is not worth it. Each card should be $5 or less in my opinion. However, for Japanese concerts, those are a little bit more difficult because Japanese concerts obviously are not as easily accessible as Korean ones, I guess. I don't know. And also, these different cards vary in rarity. So like you can see this card right here is like shimmery, I guess. So this is a rare card, and you can see it down here. I don't know if it's going to focus, but it says rare in this corner. So those are a little harder to find, as well as like just depending on the concert itself. So these Ideal Cut ones are a little bit more difficult. The Haru cards are not very hard to find, and neither are the OTU ones. So, and that also really depends on like the timing of it. So these are a little more expensive, and then even before this, there's another set that is even more expensive than this. But in general, and I would say this kind of goes for the Haru to OTU, $6 to $8 per card is the most I would spend, kind of depending on rarity and such. Now I probably wouldn't spend that much because on Mercari I bought this whole set, all of these cards, for like $20. So, you know, on Instagram they're probably going to sell for $6 to $8, and if you don't feel comfortable using Mercari, I think that $6 to $8 per card is not outrageous, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with spending that much. But in just, you know, from my experience, I can recommend what I would do. Another thing that might be a hot topic is I don't think that cards should be priced differently based on member. I don't think that that's so much of a problem in the 17 trading selling world, but in BTS it is. And I get that like there's like the whole, you know, supply and demand, but I don't know. It seems just a little. I don't do it, and I don't think that it's right for other people to do it, and I don't think that you should buy, you know, from people who do that, in my opinion. However, on Mercari, it is good to remember that the price of members kind of varies a lot, especially for 17. Jonghan is notoriously known to be the most expensive member on Mercari because he's like the most popular member in Japan. His cards will probably go for twice as much as Vernon's. Maknae line in general is probably the least expensive on Mercari, and it kind of 96 line is second after Jonghan generally, and then the others kind of fall somewhere in the middle. But it is good to remember that and kind of know what you're getting into, especially if you collect Jonghan or, you know, Wonu, Soonyoung, or Jihoon, especially because those are a little more expensive members. It might not even be that much more beneficial to buy things off Mercari because those cards are definitely going to be more expensive compared to if I were to buy Vernon cards on Mercari versus Instagram. Another thing is just kind of like, especially when it comes to really rare cards, expensive cards, things you're going to spend like $20 or more on a single card, it's just kind of good to do your research, look around on different websites and things, even ask people that know more. I don't know that much about really rare cards, especially like broadcast ones and such, because I think I've seen for 17 broadcast cards vary so greatly in price. So I would just, you know, my biggest recommendation is just to like do your research and, you know, try to really figure out what you're getting yourself into and how much you should spend. Should is a loose term. I think that's it. I talked so much in that video, holy shit. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I hope that this was informative. Please let me know if you have any other questions, and I can kind of put those in another video maybe if, you know, if this one goes well, if you guys enjoy this one and think that it's helpful. But yeah, just let me know, and make sure to check out the description for those links. And also make sure to stream left and right. Bye!